Hello, my name is Dario Romero, and in this video we're going to talk about how to prepare for a USCIS interview, whether it's a naturalization or adjustment of status. These tips apply to all types of interviews. So the preparation, or the key to success, is preparation. I cannot stress this enough. So before you go to your actual interview, review your application. Make sure if anything has changed or something was forgotten, you can make those updates at the actual interview. And it's also very important for you to get legal advice whether or not you actually qualify what you're requesting immigration to approve. Because immigration doesn't tell you when you file the application, they tell you when you go to your actual interview. And there are people who go to the actual interview and get denied for whatever they requested because they never qualified in the first place. Also, I always recommend to do a mock interview. Have someone else pretend to be the officer, or someone with experience. Just kind of run through the questions, and that way you get a feel for what the actual interview would be. I prepare my clients and I do a mock interview and I pretend I'm the officer. That way the clients get an experience of how it's going to be the day of the interview. Also, it's very important to dress professionally. I always tell people if you're going to a job interview or you're going to church, that's the level of clothing you should have. And it's also very important to show up at least 30 minutes before, because you do have to account for traffic. What if you have a flat tire? Sometimes there's a long line to get into the building. So you just want to make sure you're not running late. So it's always good to plan ahead. So what can you expect the day? So I always tell clients, please plan accordingly, block off half of your day just to make sure, because sometimes the interviews can be super quick, or we might be there for a while because there are multiple interviews going on, there's a lot of people, and I just don't want people to be feeling rushed because they have to be somewhere else. So once you go into the actual interview, there's going to be an officer, and the officer is going to swear you in that you promise to tell the truth and everything that you say can be used against you. Also, they're going to ask you the question if you're under the influence of any drugs or alcohol that affects your ability to answer questions. If you are taking any type of medication for a medical condition and that impairs or affects your mental state, please let the officer know. Also, the setting, it's an office, it's a small office, one desk. So sometimes some officers, they have a decorated office, sometimes it's just the bare basics. And also, what can you expect? You can expect to be nervous. It's only a big day in your life, so nerves are going to be normal, okay? So here are the tips that I give when answering questions. I tell clients to only answer the question. Don't answer more, don't answer less. If it's a yes or no question, only answer yes or no. I don't like to chit-chat with the officers until the interview is completely over, because sometimes through chit-chat or conversation, more information can come out that the officer can start asking more questions. And if you don't know an answer, say so. That's an appropriate answer. It's like, I don't know, I don't remember. If you have to give an estimate, you can, but make sure you use those keywords around this time, or if I have to guess, it would be this. That way, if you're a little off, it doesn't matter because you told the officer that it was an approximation. Also, if English is not your dominant language, or if you prefer to have someone translator, because there's a lot of technical and legal terminology that a lot of people do not know. So I tell people to have a translator if you don't feel 100% comfortable, or I would say 90% comfortable with the English language. Also, you have to be very cautious of your body language. These officers see a lot of people and they get to see habits of people when they're being nervous or when they're answering questions. For example, what if the person is answering very direct, yes, no, yes, no. And I know where they get to a harder question and the client, the person will go, no. But just by that little scratching, the change in the voice, that tells the officer that the person got a little nervous with that question. Also, when someone is getting defensive, they cross their arms. So those are the things that you have to watch out for to not do that. And hopefully it doesn't happen, but there are situations where they can get a little more difficult. Some officers are a little aggressive. for my experience, most of them are pretty easygoing, but there are very few. So remember, you don't have to answer any question that they ask you. Sometimes officers ask questions outside of what the application is. You're there voluntarily, so you can get up and leave if you don't want to be there. If you leave, then the officer can make a decision based on what they have. But also, you don't have to answer every single question that the officer is asking. If it's getting tense, you can always ask to speak to a supervisor, and the supervisor will come out and they'll talk to you about whatever the situation is. Also, do not admit to any wrongdoing without first talking to an attorney, because there is a question on most applications that says, have you ever committed a crime for which you were not arrested for? So basically that question is telling you to admit anything that the government doesn't know. So before you answer that, I recommend speaking to an attorney. And also, if you do have an attorney, your attorney can be present at the interview. The attorney can stop the interview, they can take a pause, you can speak to your attorney privately. So there's benefits to having an attorney there, because we're just kind of like, as the referee, we're just kind of in the background making sure everything is running smoothly. So those are the tips that I like to give to clients when they're preparing for an interview. I hope this video was helpful. I just wish you the best and have a nice day.